Welcome to the Back Up and Thriving Accessible Travel podcast. My name is Sophie Elwes, and I'm the host for this series. I sustained a spinal cord injury myself back in 2011 and have a T4 complete injury, and I work as head of services at Backup. Over this series, I'll be interviewing a range of guests who all are affected by spinal cord injury, and each episode will look at a different mode of transport. Guests will be sharing their stories, their travel experiences, as well as some fabulous advice. Our hope is that listeners will realise that travelling after spinal cord injury is not only possible, but that it can be life-changing too. Darren and Hannah, it's great to see you. Thank you so much for coming on the Backup podcast.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, good to be here.
Awesome. So I'm going to start. First of all, would you introduce yourselves and tell me a bit about your journey to kind of Backup and how you got here, really? Hannah, do you want to go first?
Yeah. My name's Hannah. Sustained a C5 incomplete spinal cord injury in 2018 through a trampoline accident at my club. Just one of those things that happened in training. And then I first met Backup in the spinal unit, and they came in to do wheelchair skill, and that's when I first heard of them, early 2019, and then sort of got involved with the youth group, and then just stuck with Backup and just got involved with anything and everything that I could.
What was your first kind of service beyond the youth group? That was the YAG, right?
Yeah, the YAG. I did a course in 2021. Did the multi-activity course in the Lake District, and yeah, it was incredible. It was one of the best weeks of my life. It really opened my eyes up to what's possible after spinal cord injury, and it was incredible.
Love that. And you say you were trampolining for a club. Tell us a bit more about kind of what you were doing before your injury.
So yeah, I trained regularly for my club. Competed in national competitions across the country. I had the opportunity to represent England in May of 2018, which was incredible. Nothing better than being able to represent your country. So yeah, amazing experience. Competed in British Championships, English Championships. I had a pretty successful 2018. And then I had my injury the day after trials for the England squad for the following year. So I was involved in a lot of different things and coached a bit as well and judged as well at competitions, which I'm still involved in now.
And how old were you in 2018?
I was 16 when I had my injury.
And Darren, do you want to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about kind of your perspective as a parent?
Okay, so I'm Hannah's dad. When she had her injury, it's every parent's worst fear. It's just, there's no real words to describe it. It was devastating. I work for an insurance company that deal with these type of injuries as well, so I found it really difficult to compute what was going on. I didn't really want to kind of acknowledge that it had happened. But I think in terms of Hannah's progress through Salford and Southport, that we saw some green shoots of recovery and hope, and obviously she was introduced to Backup. I was very much on the periphery of Backup for a little while. Probably about 9 months later, when I sat down and actually spoke to someone properly, and from there, my involvement is as a family mentor and a family support volunteer, and it's going well.
Wonderful. Hannah, I think it would be interesting for people to hear kind of about your injury and how it kind of presents, what your mobility is like, if you're happy to share.
Yeah, of course. C5 incomplete. So it affects all four limbs. But because I'm incomplete, I've regained some movement in all four limbs. So I'm able to walk like short distances, you know, around the house and things like that. But I use a wheelchair quite a lot of the time. So yeah, it's a manual wheelchair, so it gives me that freedom, allows me to go out and about. And yeah, my hands are affected, so struggle sometimes with grip, like very dexterous tasks and things like that. But I just sort of adapt, and you adapt to life, no matter what your injury, and yeah, it doesn't stop me from doing anything. You just find a different way of doing it. So yeah, it's been a whirlwind of a ride, but I'm loving it, and just onto the new adventures that the future will hold, really.
Hannah, thank you for sharing that. And I think what can be really valuable for people is actually learning that if you are able to walk with a spinal cord injury, actually how using a wheelchair, can sometimes be helpful, right?
Yeah, 100%. I'm able to walk little bits, more so like inside the house, etc. And but going out and about in my chair just gives me that freedom, and I wouldn't be able to see or reach half the places that I've been if I wasn't in my chair. So yeah, it's just been the best thing for me, really, to get that balance and realise you don't have to, push yourself to the limit. And then you're trying to recover for the next week or so. It's just not worth it. So for me, using my chair allows me to go further, see the world, and just gives me that independence.
I think it's true. I think Hannah's always tried to push the boundaries, and I don't think would have rehabbed as well had she not tried to do that. But I think there's a time and a place from acknowledging that you need that support of the chair to get from A to B, and that just means that she's more prepared and more able to do other activities when she does that. So it's a really important lesson. I think there's sometimes a view that you don't want to use it because you feel as though you're being labelled as a wheelchair user, but actually it allows you to be more active as a result, and it is that balance, and Hannah's got that.
And do the things that are actually kind of important to you. I can appreciate that.
Yeah.
There's been a sort of mentions here and there of sort of some of the, Hannah, you said that, you're loving it and stuff like that. Would love for you to share kind of what it is that you're up to, fast forward however long it's been, 6 years. I know that you've been doing a huge amount. Tell us a bit about what you have been up to and what you're up to now, if you would.
Yeah, of course. I mean, 6 years has flown by. It's like gone in a flash. But yeah, following my injury, I went back to school. Because in year 11, so I did my GCSEs, and then I hit like a bit of a rock bottom. It was a tough time for me, post injury, just with, coming to terms with my spinal cord injury and, what life would hold, having been a trampoline gymnast for so long, and then no longer being able to do that. It was like, what next? What do I do now? But yeah, and that took me a couple of years to sort of really understand and, work out what it was that I wanted to do. And so I finished my GCSEs, went to sixth form, and then started university, studied to be a physiotherapist, which I graduated this year. And then I've just got myself a job, so I'll be working soon as a rotational physiotherapist. So yeah, in that time I've picked up sport again. I play wheelchair rugby. So I've had so many opportunities in that to be able to, play across the country. I've travelled to different countries to play and train, and just really developed as a player and a person. And it's really helped with my independence, confidence, communication. everything like that all through sport and just my whole life experiences since my injury. And I'm just loving being able to just enjoy life and just make the most of it, especially with being a physio now, being able to help people. I was supported so much by physios in the early days of my injury and throughout my whole recovery, and then pre-injury as well with sports injuries, etc. So I really want to be able to just give back and help other people, and yeah, it's a real driver for me. And I'm excited to start this journey in this career and see where it takes me.
It is so exciting. Feels like it's a real prime time to talk to you, to be honest, as you kind of kick off your career, really.
Yeah.
So you've mentioned a little bit about, some of the stuff that you've been up to, and the theme of our conversation today is all about driving as a mode of transport. Tell me about kind of when you first started driving and even when you first got into a car, and take me through the motions with that, if you would, Hannah.
For me, I've always wanted to be able to drive. Having parents take me to training, and it's a lot on them for all those years. So yeah, I've always wanted to be able to drive and just take myself places. So yeah, when I first had my first lesson, it was just amazing. It was scary. You're in control of a vehicle, but yeah, it was amazing. I had my assessment with the assessment centre to determine sort of what I might need in terms of adaptations, etc. Because I couldn't drive pre-injury, so I was starting from scratch. So yeah, I had my assessment, and I tried loads of different things, loads of different hand controls, loads of different things that could help me, like handbrakes, etc. So that was really useful and gave me a real insight into what was out there in terms of driving and how to adapt. And then I found myself, I drive an automatic car, and I found myself an instructor near me, and they, took me out, and it was just incredible. It's like a sense of freedom. Even though I was only learning, it was like eventually I'll be out on my own and be able to take myself places. So it was really good, and yeah, I'm so happy that I did it.
I bet you are, being able to get around, and especially with, public transport, it is possible, but it's not always that easy, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not easy all the time. It would be a lot better if public transport was easier. I think it's getting there, but it's going to take a long time. So yeah, just being able to, drive and get to places is massive for me. It's really helped.
Yeah.
Have you got anything to share with us?
Just, I think, like most 17-year-olds, they're excited and eager to drive. Trying to do that with a spinal cord injury is much more difficult, but much more rewarding when it's achieved. I think there's where there's a will, there's a way, really. I think many people feel that, they can't do things, but actually speaking to the right people, having the assessments, being told what modifications you might or might not need, I think just gives you that confidence. And then when you tap into a driving instructor that, is familiar with, learning, teaching someone with a disability, just becomes even more rewarding. The fact that they wanted to take you out a second time means that you did something right on your first lesson. But yeah, I think that's just what we observed, and then passing a test and being, having that freedom and independence to go out on our own. Won't lie, we were on tenterhooks first few times that you went out on your own, but it is a game changer in terms of what Hannah could do, and another step in her journey to independence.
I'm sitting here nodding because I can completely appreciate, for me, I did drive before my injury, but I live in London and don't know if you've ever driven in London, but it's not easy. It's definitely something
Scary.
to get used to. Yeah. If you're not used to it, it's terrifying. And I really, it took me some time to like build up my confidence. And actually for me, it was going on the backup course and coming back from that and, just that confidence rising and like, having a car just changed everything. It was like being able to go places and, like you say, being independent.
Yeah.
Completely agree. It's scary. Like, it's daunting. It's not something that you just pick up straight away. Well, you might, but it is scary. But I think, like you say, you start off with a little journey and then you build on that. And then you go onto a motorway and you build on that, and eventually you get used to it, and you then have I found that by gradually building it up, it made things a lot easier. And I was fortunate in some ways. Like I passed the week before lockdown, so it was
wow, that's lucky.
really beneficial for me in that sense because the roads were like really quiet when I'd just passed my test. So
interesting.
I could just go out and just take everything in, but not being worried about other cars and things, and really just get used to driving around. And that was really helpful for me in that sense. But definitely building your confidence up and getting used to driving and the roads, etc. And then you're away.
Totally.
Yeah.
So you spoke a bit about the kind of assessment, and I wonder, would you kind of talk through, do you use any adaptations now, and what have you kind of tried? Because there'll be some people listening who, there's all sorts of things out there. Tell us a little about your experience with that, if you would.
Yeah, so with the assessment, they looked at whether I could control my feet in terms of using an automatic car, so pedals. And then into sort of whether I need hand controls. So I tried loads of different hand controls, from like your standard push-pull to, behind steering wheel ones and all sorts of different ones. And we came to the conclusion that, I could use my right foot to drive with the pedals, but I have a steering ball. It just makes it so much easier for being able to, move the steering wheel and not have to worry about hand placement and getting your hands in the right place. And so it makes it so much easier for me. And then I have like a T, what looks like a T on the handbrake. I did in my old car to help with me putting the handbrake on, because my hand function couldn't necessarily press the button to put the handbrake on, so that was really useful. And the car I'm in now just is an automatic handbrake, so it makes things so much easier.
Oh yeah, it does, doesn't it?
So not having to worry
I used to have one in my old car, and it was such a breeze, especially when you're using your hands for so much. My current car doesn't have one, but I'm due to get a new one from Motability, and I'm definitely automatic handbrakes, great.
Yeah, so my first car was Motability. I drove like a Yaris, and it was amazing. And I'm still in a Yaris, but it's a bit more updated. So I've got an automatic handbrake, which makes things a lot easier. But I think for me in the future, hand controls is something that I'll probably use in terms of maybe like a push-pull. I think especially helping with like spasticity and fatigue, especially like long distance driving. I'm driving up and down the country, and when I get older, obviously aging, I don't know what will happen with that. I'm hopefully many years away from that, but I think something in the future I'll definitely consider is getting some hand controls just to help with driving. And I found it good to use when I tried it in the assessment. So yeah.
It's really interesting to hear about all the different things. From my point of view, I use push-pull hand controls and a steering wheel. Agreed, absolutely essential, especially for turning around and stuff. But the things that you've been talking about, I wasn't aware of them at all. So it's amazing to hear there's so much by way of adaptations.
Yeah,
I think,
100%.
I mean, when obviously you encountered them when you had your driving assessment, but Motability, the reps within the car dealerships that deal with the Motability scheme, we were fortunate that we found someone that was very switched on, knew what was the right thing for Hannah. So he was the one that was recommending the steering wheel ball and the handbrake as well, specific ones, and he facilitated those being added to the car. Hopefully, as technology advances, certainly with cars, there's less and less things that you do need. There's lots of cruise control, which is adaptive. We won't mention driverless vehicles, but as technology advances, that's only going to complement someone driving with a disability.
Yeah, so true. I'm a big cruise control kind of
I
person.
love cruise
Are
control.
you too, Hannah? It's so good,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Especially motorway driving. Same speed all the time. It just makes it a lot easier, and you're not having to, worry about, accelerating and stuff. You can just focus on the road, and it just makes it a lot easier. And I like cruise control, just going along, listening to the tunes.
So good.
I'm glad you said focus on the road, because I thought you were going to close your eyes then.
Hannah, so you said your first car was a Motability car?
Yeah, and my current car is as well. So.
Oh, it is as well. Okay, cool. That's good.
Yeah. This is my second car on the scheme.
Alright, cool. And how have you found it, the scheme?
It's been really good. The guys in the dealerships are really helpful as well. When I went to the dealership, it was really getting to know what I wanted and what would best suit my needs in terms of transporting equipment and stuff for sport, and having a big enough space, but also I didn't want like a massive car. So it's just the right size for me, really, and it suits my needs and allows me to, travel with sport and get where I need to be. They were super, super helpful in terms of making it accessible to what I need.
Darren, have you got anything to share about Motability and your experience with it at all?
I've actually been with Hannah when she's had these discussions, and just their understanding of what it is that she wants out of the car. She's not a fast driver, or not when I'm with her. But into the equipment's the key here. Can it transport what she needs to be transported? And they listened to her. We thought one of the cars wasn't going to be big enough, but they assured us it was, and they were happy to, get all the equipment out and put into the car as a demo if we wanted that. So really accommodating. Kept us informed when the car was going to arrive, and the way that they support you in terms of any maintenance or servicing is quite good as well. I think that's an important thing. It's a peace of mind that you know that you're being looked after, and that's certainly our experience with the two vehicles that Hannah has had. Yeah.
I agree with you. I've always been so impressed. Anytime I've needed to call them up or whatever, I think something about their customer service is really good.
Yeah, I think as well it's one less thing to think about in terms of service. Everything with the car, I think, you're not having to, worry about it in that sense. Like, it's all sorted, get it booked in, and then they deal with it, and, it's really good. And I think as well, like, when you're going to look at cars, I think just ask those questions and, really clarify what it is that you want out of the car, and, if they don't know, then they will ask someone else and get the answer for you. So I think if you're unsure, just ask and, really just make sure it's the one for you.
That's a really nice segue, actually. Like, what would your advice be to a new driver with a spinal cord injury? What would your advice be to them?
I think for me, just go for it. I love that phrase, just go for it. I think the freedom and independence that it gives you is massive. And yeah, just, you know, obviously there's so many different cars out there, but I think, you know, just look at what it is that you want out of the car, whether that's transporting things or just, you know, to run from A to B or what have you. But yeah, I think just if you can drive and, you know, getting the adaptations that you need and just going through that process, and I think you'll be grateful for it. And yeah, it just gives you so much, and it's another option of transport as well.
Yeah.
I was going to ask, actually, as well. I think something on a lot of people's minds with spinal cord injury is about transferring and getting into the car, and it can be really, really challenging for a lot of us.
Yeah.
What was your experience like that kind of initially? And yeah, tell us a bit about that if you would.
Yeah, so I first did a car transfer in the spinal unit, and that was a weird sensation. Was, you know, going from chair to chair into the car, and just really, you know, how you navigate that, getting into the car, and then obviously trying to get your chair in the car as well can be quite difficult sometimes. And you know, sometimes I will, like, say, put my chair on the back seat or in the boot, and then like mobilise around the side of the car and then get in the car. And then sometimes I will transfer the chair over across me into the passenger seat. So it just depends on what I'm doing the day and everything like that. But it's, yeah, it can be difficult. I think you get a knack for it, and you find out what works best for you in terms of getting your chair in the car and where you put the wheels and everything like that. So it's just working that out, but it's not going to happen on the first try. You know, it takes practice, and you know, sometimes I do it now and I'm like, why did you do it that way? So it's just like practicing it and working out what's best for you.
And I think, you know, you're braver than you think you are. You know, so I think it's important to just remember that, you know, just push the boundaries a bit, push the envelope, because, you know, there's a whole host of reward around the corner. You know, the important thing for a Motability vehicle is you can have more than one driver. So, you know, if you're lacking in confidence, you can have someone with you. They can, you know, maybe take over the driving if necessary. But it's the first step in kind of getting used to driving a vehicle, and it just buys you time to, you know, work out the right system for you. And like we said about Motability, you know, depends on what your needs are in terms of transferring chairs in and out, or equipment. They might say that car's not the right one for you. You know, they'd recommend something different. And so it's very particular to your needs. And I think, you know, that's what I would take. I think if there's a fear of not being able to do something, then I would explore it first of all.
I love that. I think that's such good advice, like from both of you. I think, you know, what you were saying, Hannah, about what actually works for you. And I think we see a lot of, you know, on social media or whatever, of what other people are doing. And, you know, comparison is the thief of joy, they say, don't they? Yeah. And it's really hard, you know, to think, oh, I should be doing it like that, or I'm not doing it good, or whatever. I mean, I've been injured for 13 years, and, you know, I'm really quick at getting my chair and over but it's really scratched. It's really bad, like just in the doorway. And you know what, these days, I'm okay with that. It works for me, and the priority for me is speed, and I want to get in and out. And I should get better when I get this new car. But I think the important thing is, like, it's your race, and you do it your way, right?
Yeah, 100%. You know, it's really easy to compare yourself to others, and I do it myself in lots of different things. But I think you've got to just try different ways, and you will find that's the way that I want to do it, and you'll adapt it and create your own new way of whatever you do. And, there's probably thousands of ways to get your chair in the car, and, you find one that's easier for you. And like you say, whether that's the need for speed or, you want to protect your doorways, whatever it is, do what works for you.
Totally. And the thing that comes to mind a little bit as well, you mentioned the backup course, the multi-activity course that you went on. There's some other courses like Skills for Independence and the City Skills course, and you're a wheelchair skills trainer and a group leader and all of the things. Those courses are a really, really great space to try those things out, aren't they?
Yeah, 100%. Especially the likes of Skills for Independence, even just transfers into the car itself. Watching multiple different people transfer, they'll all do it in their own way. So I think really just, educating and teaching people is what I love about it, and being able to support them in their journey with spinal cord injury. And the same with group leading. The first time was this summer, and it was a really good experience on 2 different courses, to like the differences and how they run. And I think it's just learning from others and speaking to people. Everyone has so many different years of experience and different experiences themselves. I think you learn so much from speaking to other people and understanding how they've done things in the past, and they can provide advice. And I find that really helpful. I constantly learning on courses, whether I'm a skills trainer or group leader or whatever it is I'm doing. I'm always learning. I always come back and I've learned so much. So I think speaking to others is really helpful.
Darren, how has it been from your point of view, kind of seeing Hannah particularly going on courses and now, leading those courses? What's it been like for you?
It's fantastic. It's, very proud to see where she's come from. It's, she's always been active, always been inquisitive, and seeing her now having experienced the multi-activity course and then this year leading one of the multi-activity courses, I think just, shows how far she's progressed. And, she's supporting others, but she's helping herself at the same time by being involved in these and speaking to people, getting other, other people's perspective on, what their challenges are, because, Hannah might face those challenges herself. So, it's been a win-win. Yeah.
Love that. So I think with driving with a disability, if you're not familiar with it, there's a whole load of questions that people are going to ask, particularly if you have trouble walking, filling up petrol, all that sort of thing. So we could go into a huge deep dive into all of those things. But my question to you is, are there any apps or tools or anything like that you might recommend for people to know about when driving with a spinal cord injury?
I
or
think
generally, even if there's an app that would be good for everyone, great.
Google Maps. I love Google Maps in terms of finding things that are accessible. Quick on the accessible features. Can you get into places? You don't want to turn up to a place and then not be able to get in, because it's a nightmare. Google Maps, looking at accessibility and easier ways to get to places is really useful. I use Google Maps all the time when I'm going places, traveling everywhere. Stick Google Maps on, so that's really good. And there's the fuel service app as well, which is a good app in terms of getting petrol. You can just put in the station that you're going to. I think you can select either a time slot or, notify them when you've arrived. And then someone will come out and fuel your car with however much it is that you want to put in. So it saves you having to get out of the car, etc. If you want to be quick, then it's a good way of doing it. And yeah, those are probably my top two in terms of like driving and cars, but there's loads of different ones that you can use to help you get out and about, and also look at like accessibility of places, which is really useful.
What about parking? How do you find that parking generally? Obviously, Blue Badge helps.
Yeah, Blue Badge helps massively in terms of you're able to park, say in double yellows if it's safe for up to 3 hours, which is quite a long time. And also, quite a lot of car parks, if you've got a Blue Badge, will let you park free of charge, which is really useful. Saves quite a bit of money as well. And yeah, I mean, there isn't always Blue Badge spaces. But I always, you're struggling to find a space, then try and get one on the end. It's quite useful, or park across two spaces and put your Blue Badge in the window, and people will understand, hopefully. But yeah, there isn't always Blue Badge spacing, or it's full. Or some car parks just don't have it. So you've just got to find a way around it. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of information and tips and advice and all that sort of thing out there, and it does take time to sort of get familiar. I mean, I came across an app the other day called Appy Parking, which is amazing. Wow. Really good for finding like on-street parking and stuff. So I guess we've talked already a little bit about like, speaking to people who understand and that sort of thing. So it's, when you're starting on that journey, might be good to kind of reach out to people and get their advice about, this or that, because I'm still learning stuff now for sure.
I agree. And, when I was at university, going into town and stuff, I would like Google the accessible parking, and it'd give me a big map of like the whole city and a list of where the accessible parking was, like on street parking that was like disability
to do that.
Blue Badge parking. So it was super helpful, because you could then just type in the name of the street that the parking was on, get to that street, and there's loads of different options in quite a small space. So that's always something good to look at, especially in big cities, is to just Google Blue Badge parking on street, and quite a lot of streets will have it. So it's definitely worth a look.
It's that preparation, isn't it, beforehand, a little bit?
Yeah, 100%. Being prepared.
Yeah. Going back to Google Maps, it's just allowing you to understand how your journey's going. So if there's an issue, you have to reroute. If you need a break, you've got an idea of whether you need to approach the journey from a different direction. It just gives you that kind of, it sets out the time barriers. Unfortunately, it always creeps up as well in traffic, but it just allows you to set a little bit of your expectations. And a lot of going back to parking, there's lots of apps out there which mean you can pay through the app. It just kind of reduces the need to be out of the car, or searching around to pay for things where you need to pay for them. It's a little bit more comfortable and a little bit more accessible.
It's well worth just putting in that time, isn't it? Just learning about some of these things, and maybe signing up for that, the apps that you need to kind of pay for parking, the meter parking apps and that sort of thing. So I always find I get there and I've got to sign up for it.
Yeah, absolutely. Unfortunately, there's quite a lot of them. So, your phone is full of parking apps. But at least if you signed up for them, then it becomes a lot easier to deal with, and it takes that stress of trying to queue up or park nearby and pay when your credit card, or if it's cash. It's different. The parking apps all done online. It's just all seamless in the main. Yeah.
Some great advice here. It's awesome. So I've got 3 questions that I'll finish with. So Hannah, I'm going to direct this one to you. First question is, can you tell me what your top or one of your best travel memories have been, please?
I think I've got 2. I think for me, earlier this year, in the summer, I travelled for the first time abroad on my own. And I think for me that was just an incredible experience, just to take it in on my own and feel super responsible and, get from A to B abroad, using public transport abroad is quite scary actually, but I'm really happy that I've done it, and that was a big achievement for me. So yeah, I was, super excited.
Where did you go?
About that. I went to Paris. So yeah, I went out there to watch the Paralympics. At the beginning of September, and yeah, it was amazing to just do it myself on my own.
I bet it's a huge achievement, that.
Yeah. And then I think the other one was like the first time I went like abroad post injury. I think it was sort of a realization that it was possible, and it was scary and nerve-wracking and like a completely unknown world, but it was definitely an experience to remember, and I think it really then set me up for having that confidence to just go out and enjoy things and not worry if something goes wrong. Like things will go wrong, but you just gotta take it with a pinch of salt and try something different, adapt, and see what happens. It's not all gonna go smoothly every time. So yeah, I think for me those are definitely my top 2 in terms of travel in general, and yeah.
Oh, very cool. So I'll direct this to you first, Darren, but I feel like, Hannah, you may have something valuable to give us as well. But what would you say, from a parent's point of view, what's a kind of a tip or a top tip for living well with a spinal cord injury from your point of view?
I think having that attitude that, nothing's impossible. You've got to take your time as well. But do the things that you want to do, in moderation, of course. That's what I would say. It's encouragement. And I think, that's come out in what Hannah's achieved over the last few years. I do want to go back to what Hannah's just said though about travel memory, because it's important for the person with a spinal cord injury, but it's also important for the family that they know that they can go on holiday as well. That they've got that family connection. So that first holiday, we went to somewhere that we'd been to many times before because we were familiar with it, and it was just it was really rewarding to know that you can still see the things that you want to see and do the things that you want to do on holiday, and that just kind of opens the doors to places that you've not been to before as well. It gives you that confidence. I think that's absolutely key for anyone listening, that it's not just about one individual, it's about the family connection as well.
Oh, I'm so glad you shared that. It's huge, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, yeah.
And knowing that it's possible, that's a question that comes up a lot, when, in mentoring, for example. I used to work in the mentoring team, and it's kind of like, okay, holiday, travel. Yeah,
it's not, it's not plain sailing. There's lots of planning and preparation, and, speak to those people that have travelled to the places that you want to go to, because they can give you the heads up that, you need to be prepared, or actually there's lots of things out there, and that's really key. We talk about planning quite a lot, whether it's driving, whether it's holidaying outside of the UK, but absolutely it's possible. You just need to be a little bit more prepared than you would do. Not as gung ho. Yeah.
Hannah, what have you got to share in terms of a top tip for living well with a spinal cord injury? It doesn't need to be about travel. It can be about anything, really.
I think take some time for yourself. There's a lot going on, and I think sometimes you just need that time to just relax and also just take things in. I don't do this often enough, but I think it's so important to do a bit of self-care, whether that's just, doing exercise or, just getting some fresh air or reading a book, whatever it is that you want to do. I think it just really helps bring everything together and just allows you to just process things as well, which I think is so important for your mental health. So much goes on and there's so much to think about on a day-to-day basis that it can become quite overwhelming. And I think you need that time to just let yourself process it and just not try and think about anything else, just, chilling or, I often do this when I'm in the gym. It's just, I'm in my own little world. And I think that really helps me in terms of living my life, and especially with a spinal cord injury, with other things that go on with living with a spinal cord injury. So yeah, I think that's definitely one top tip from me is give yourself that bit of time and do things that you enjoy. If you don't enjoy something, then why do it? You've got to enjoy what you're doing, and if that means take a break, then take a break, and then you come back to that same thing and you really enjoy it. And sometimes you need that to be able to, make the most out of what you're doing.
Love that. They're huge things that I think are really, really important, and it can take time to realise that, I think.
Yeah.
That's fabulous.
Absolutely.
So, final question, because the theme of this podcast is about travel. What's your top tip for travel in general? It doesn't have to be just about driving, just more broadly, what's your top tip?
I think a big one is plan ahead. You've got to be, aware of what's going on, and, whether that's things like where are the bathrooms or, where's a shop that I can stop at and get some food or whatever it may be, is just having those things in the back of your mind or written down or something that you can refer to so you know where things are on whatever journey it is that you're taking, and allowing yourself enough time to get there. I'd rather arrive an hour early than 10 minutes late. You've got to
for sure.
give yourself enough time. Things might take a little bit longer to get to places. So yeah, allow yourself enough time and plan ahead.
Love that. Darren, have you got anything to share, that sort of final top travel tip?
I think what Hannah said, planning's key. It depends on where you're going. If you're going abroad, then you really do need to plan. And like we've already touched upon, speaking to people that have perhaps been there is helpful. When Hannah went this time, I think sometimes when you fly, you're often wondering, is my wheelchair going to make it? So that's obviously a bit of apprehension. So we've invested in an AirTag, which goes on the chair, so you know where it is. You can put it in your case as well, obviously, but just gives a bit of peace of mind. But yeah, I think preparation, if you're going abroad, make sure you've got all your medications, a bit more than you probably think you need, just to cater for delays, and learn a few foreign phrases or have them available to you just to help you get out of trouble.
I think as well is there's going to be always someone at the end of the phone. If you are stuck, you can ring someone. Whether that be family, friends, or whoever it may be, to get you out of of trouble, if you are worried or if you're stuck or what have you, just need some advice on, I'm at this place, but where do I go, or what have you. I think that's really important, that, don't be afraid to just ring someone or ask someone if you need a bit of support.
Oh, such a good bit of advice. Ask for help, right?
Yeah, ask for help.
It's not, you're not, it's okay not to be completely independent all the time. You can ask for help. Sometimes it really helps.
Yeah.
This has been an amazing conversation. I've loved it, and I'm sure many, many people will enjoy it too. Thank you so much, both of you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you very much.
Awesome.
Yeah.
You've been listening to the Back Up and Thriving Accessible Travel podcast. We hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, please do give us a rating, review, and subscribe or follow on Spotify, because this helps us reach more people that might enjoy or even benefit from listening. See you next time.